Greetings and welcome once again to our EThekwini Matters Podcast, a program whereby we ventilate quite a number of service delivery issues. Today we thought that it is of paramount importance that we invite the first citizen of our city, the Honourable Mayor Councillor Mxolisi Kaunda. Mayor, welcome to EThekwini Matters Podcast. How are you feeling?
Good afternoon, Maisela. Thank you very much for having me in this very important program where we have interface with our members of the public, because we have to account and everything must be put on the table as to how are we responding to the issues of service delivery in our municipality.
And I think it is a monumental task to steer a ship of this magnitude to the right direction and to the satisfaction of all your customers. How do you do it?
Yeah, governments by nature, they are created to change the lives of the people for the better and to ensure that we change the material conditions. So you do that by interventions that you make in delivering services to our people, especially basic services, which are essential in nature. You talk about water and electricity and the roads, because roads are the nerves of the economy. Without roads and infrastructure, you can't run any economy. So therefore, it becomes a very huge task because the needs of our communities are limitless. You can address a housing need today, but tomorrow there will be another need that will emerge. But all what we are doing is to ensure that we listen carefully so that our IDPs are also informed by what communities needs, because it's not about the municipality deciding on behalf of residents that this is what we are going to develop in your own area. But we are also working tirelessly as the leadership of the municipality to ensure that stakeholder engagement and the public, we intensify it, because we can't be running programs which are not known. The members of the public, part of this program that you are running today, it's intended to ensure that we inform people. But you'll recall that when we arrived here in September 2019, some of people are calling me a mayor of disaster, because when I arrived here, there was a disaster in 2019. So that disaster was to trying to really pull ourselves together so that we become more responsive to the damages and also develop recovery plans. Then there comes COVID-19 in 2020, which brought about so much of devastation in the economy, in the livelihood, in all aspects of life, because we were locked in houses, we were locked in office, in our homes, we were unable to work from offices. Then we were still recovering from that as well. We were the first city to develop an economic recovery plan, which address all the aspects of our development, including all the sectors of the economy. But whilst we were still engaged on the implementation of such a noble plan, the unrest visited us. The unrest visited the city. Then we had to combine all these disasters so that we try and mitigate and ensure that we become more responsive to the needs and aspirations of our community. But what we have done so far, I think we have been able to respond to all these disasters, looking at how we have restored services immediate after April disaster. So it shows that we do have capacity as the municipality to respond to such conditions, but it can't be adequate because we need more resources. Looking at the magnitude of the damage that all these disasters have left behind, it shows that it's going to take us years to recover, especially to build an economy that is inclusive, that will be able to respond to the needs of people.
But I think you must have been elated when the announcement was made that the restrictions, in as far as COVID-19 is concerned, were going to be lifted. I mean, recently we have hosted the Hollywood Bets July. What would you like to say? Because clearly it is going to give us an opportunity to rebuild our economy.
No, we welcome that with warm hands, because you'll recall that looking at how the tourism sector was severely affected by all the disasters. By the way, the taste of tourists, it's about what you avail in your city. So if you can't have festivals, you can't have entertainment, hospitality industry shut down, hotels, restaurants. So people have to order meals from home and all of that. So it killed the economy because it's actually sends a message that the jobs that are already there are going to disappear. If you look at how the municipality have been generating revenue from all these businesses, we had to drop in the revenue. As a result, we dropped to a level of revenue collection of 90%, which has never been our practice in the city. So we are happy that we are now starting to climb a hill. We are now recovering. Because we are now seated at 95% from 92%. So it shows that as all the industries, especially the tourism industry, is now reopening, the factories, our manufacturing sector, which has also been severely affected, but is now starting to recoup where they left off. So with that, today I paid a visit to Toyota South Africa, just to conduct an assessment as to how far in terms of recovery Toyota is seated. And we were happy to receive a report that already some operations have already started, which shows that working together, because our own team from the municipality, they had to ensure that there's adequate water, there's adequate power there, so that the operations of the companies can resume. So with all that, it requires that there must be a stability. And that level of stability is required from the members of the community. So all what we have seen happening in the city is that people of eThekwini, they possess a resilience that is required. Because looking at the first event, Hollywood Bets July, Durban July, it was the first events after the regulations were lifted. So, but it showed that it was the biggest ever event after the lockdown that has been had. So it shows that the city do have capacity. People of the city, they welcome tourists with the home hospitality, but it also requires further that we must deal with the illegal public protest. People, by the way, the Constitution provides them with all the rights. Section 17, they must demonstrate if they are not happy with anything, but they can't be blockading the roads. They can't be throwing stones to the people's vehicles. They can't be throwing stones to our new buses that we have just brought on board. So it requires that sense of stability so that we build about this, we bring about this social cohesion so that this city will grow its economy. And the economic growth requires that we put concerted efforts, as we have seen what we have done even during the hard lockdown levels of the COVID-19. The city was able to continue to attract investment. The city continued to invest under those difficult conditions. The city continued to invest in the infrastructure, which attracts people to come and invest. Although we also agree that the loss of some investment in that process, we acknowledge that, like Heineken, who was very close to invest, so they had to pull out because of the strain that they found themselves in by all these conditions that were happening.
But you touched one important thing when it comes to moving our members of the public around. We've seen you handing over or unveiling buses, a fleet of buses. Just tell us briefly, what sort of a difference is it going to usher in as far as public transport is concerned in the city?
Yeah, as the city, the Constitution gives us a mandate to ensure that we provide public transport. And that public transport needs to be provided. We need to give assurance or guarantee to our citizens that it's going to take them to workplaces, to schools on time. So the efficiency becomes more important when it comes to public transport. Affordability. Some of the buses are subsidized by our national government and provincial government to ascertain that people are able to commute to the workplaces and to schools and to social amenities. Right. But the safety must also be guaranteed. So residents of eThekwini have been raising challenges about the breakdowns that have been experiencing using our old fleet. Because when the bus is old, the lifespan of the bus should be around 10 years.
Oh, yes,
once it reaches over 10 years, it starts giving you challenges. You need to spend more on the repairs and maintenance. So they've been giving us those troubles. So as a result, some of them have been given warnings from workplaces. Learners have been coming late to school, and some of the buses also informed the level of absenteeism at school. So the quality of education and the culture of teaching and learning also was affected due to the aging fleet that we had. So bringing new fleet, you'll recall that we also in 2020 brought about the new fleet, which was 150. We started by a batch of 50, then up until 150 was reached. So now we have already issued 50 buses. On top of that, we were launching 28 last week. That 28 is adding on that 50. In total, by December, we'll be able to put a new fleet of about 148 buses. Yeah. So that on its own is the driver of the economy. Remember that employees, workers, the workforce, if it's not there on time, it affects productivity. If learners are not arriving on time at school, it affects the results. When you look at the results that are produced by schools, you start complaining why this is happening. It's because if you don't address all these challenges, which are an input, by the way, to the outcome of the society that you envisage. So these are the things which, as a city, we are happy to report that we are not sleeping on the job. We are doing exactly what people have mandated us to do.
I see we are also making a huge progress with regard to Kaunda. Is it correct?
Yes, Kaunda, you'll recall the other challenge which was experienced on the slow pace of Corridor 3 and its construction. So the construction now, we are ready. We have tested the system, if it can run. Buses are brought in place to run the system. The only challenge which we are hopeful that will be working with our stakeholders, both the bus and the taxi industry, is to finalize the issue of ownership, because we are engaged in negotiations. And remember that when you are engaged in negotiations, there's give and take. You cannot win everything. No, so I'm sure that our partners and the stakeholders will also understand that there are major things which they have achieved through the negotiations on the implementation of Kaunda. And we are hopeful that they'll consider that as a factor that will inform the progress that we must achieve as well to Kaunda.
Mayor, there's a saying that says it takes two to tango. When it comes to cleanliness in the city, it can't be a responsibility of the city alone or EThekwini municipality alone. But our communities have got a role to play so that we achieve the dream of having a clean city. What will be your message to the members of the public in this regard?
Indeed, the cleanliness of the city entails many things. It impacts on the investments. It impacts on how you become a tourist attraction. No visitor would like to come and a tourist would like to come to a dirty city. No investor would like to come to a city where there is crime and the level of cleanliness are not satisfactory. So therefore, we call upon companies. Let me just give you a practical example about Kingsgate. People, they will observe that in Kingsgate, next to the railway line, there is always dirt. It's not just ordinary people who go there and dump the waste, but it's companies. It's companies who does that. So therefore, we call upon companies as well, clothing, textile and clothing industry, to ensure that we have places which are designated for such. You keep your waste, you put it together, you deposit it in a correct place. But communities as well must come on board, because in the areas where people are complaining about the issues of cleanliness is where you'll find that you have a schedule for a refuse truck to come and collect the waste. But you'll find that people, after an hour, the truck has left the area, then they start taking out their black plastics. Yeah. So that on its own, it's add on the challenges that we are faced with, because there are monkeys, there are dogs, which will then deal with the very same refuse bag, and then we complain and say we are dead. So it is a collective responsibility to make this city clean, to make this city a livable city, and to make this city a livable city, we need to deal with crime that is engulfing the city.
Of course. Mayor, it's a fact that the inner city is the heartbeat of EThekwini. And I know that when you came in or to ascend to the throne of being the political head of this municipality, you were leading a crusade against bad buildings. Where are we in that regard? Because I'm seeing a lot of difference. Some owners are beginning to renovate their buildings. Are we faring very well?
Yes, we are. Our inner city regeneration plan entails the issue of clearing the bad buildings, encouraging the property owners whom I've been meeting with to encourage them to take responsibility about their own buildings. Some will still have challenges of ownership which has not been cleared. To those where it takes long, we'll have to go to court as a municipality. We've done with other buildings which we wanted to demolish. When partners are not coming on board, the owners, we've got to go to court and ask for the expropriation of that property. Then we've done that. But those whom we have engaged, looking at the work at Rivertown, the Rivertown is the area next to ICC, right, up to the Gandhi Road, Mahatma Gandhi Road. So there we have dealt with the issue of landscape. That project on its own, landscaping, is ensuring that we beautify the place. I'm sure members of the committee, when they walk around that area, they can observe dealing with the storm water systems and all of that, revitalizing that. We have also put money, serious investment to deal with the bulk sewer lines and water in the CBD, as people are still complaining that what is this work that is being done there? Yeah. We are informing them that you are not wasting your time, we are not wasting your money. We are investing to ensure that we deal with the issue of infrastructure. But the inner city program is moving with a pace that we are not 100% happy, because we want to see more of owners coming on board, changing and lifting the face of the city. Remember that if your building doesn't look good, it doesn't affect you as an owner. It affects the entire community of EThekwini, because no investor will also come to such a place. So, and tourists won't like to visit such a place. So it impacts on many aspects of life. So therefore we appeal that we work together with all partners. We are still considering, as you have seen, that in areas like Umhlanga, there are UIPs there, urban improvement precinct teams that are working in partnership with us as a municipality to clean those areas. That is why if we look at the roads there in Umhlanga, they are properly looked at, and in other areas where UIPs are existing. So in the CBD, we are considering also to bring such an intervention, which will ensure that people who are working there, including informal traders. Right. Remember that when you trade, you have a table there. Yeah. We have allocated you a space, but there are those whom we have not allocated who decided to expropriate whatever space that was remaining without any permit. But with that, if all informal traders can take responsibility, that in front of my table, I won't have any littering happening. I won't allow it. I will take a responsibility. We provide them with the bags. Then they put things in those bags. Then the city will be clean. So it's engagement which we have already held with the informal trading leadership, which they committed to go back, because they've been doing that before, but they are committing to go back. But issues of crime and crime, because remember that when you deal with the city of this size, there are a lot of challenges that you must manage very well, because we're an international city. We are not just a city here in KwaZulu-Natal and in South Africa. So we are competing with major cities in the world. So therefore, the issues of crime are also impacting negatively on our own plans. Hence, we have met with our teams. We have put systems in place. The Minister of the Police came here. We have launched the Safer City concept, which is being piloted in EThekwini. We have deployed our metropolis, whom their footprint is also limited because of the numbers. We are trying to increase the number of metropolis annually to ensure that we respond to the plight of our communities of bringing about safety. We are also ensuring that we utilize technology to be smart, because criminals are smart. Criminals, they plan. They don't just go and commit crime. They plan, they design their plan. Then if you as government, you don't plan and you don't do things smartly to ensure that we avert such activities to happen, then you won't be able to combat crime in the city. So the best thing to do is to ensure that our metropolis, SAPS, the fusion center that we have launched is starting to produce some results. We are not yet there, but it is starting to produce results where we are able to catch people before they commit crime in other instances. In some instances, when they've already committed crime, we are able to trace them through our cameras and also apprehend such criminals. But the issue of dealing with crime in the city, in the province, in the country, indeed, is a societal responsibility. It can't be a government alone, but we need members of the community to come on board. It's like the issue of corruption. The issue of corruption, you can't deal it with by dealing with your own employees. Leaving business people who take our employees to big hotels and negotiate stakes there. So businesses must come on board. They shouldn't be the ones who go public and say this city is corrupt, but they must come on board to work together to defeat the scourge. It's going to take time. It's not an easy thing to deal with and combat it now. It's going to take some time, but we need to infuse a culture in the institution, a culture that will make all these things subside. All these things that are foreign tendencies within the system, but also putting more control measures to ensure that you avert the corruption to take place within the system. So if your system doesn't detect if these things are going to happen, you won't be able to deal with them effectively.
Mayor, we have seen you yesterday together with the first citizen of our province, the Honourable Premier Mxolisi Kaunda, leading a march. What was the statement that the provincial government was sending to the public out there in light of the challenges that we are currently experiencing as the province and the country in general when it comes to gender-based violence?
Yes, as the city, we hosted the launch of the Men's Forum yesterday, which was led by the Premier of our province, MEC for Health and MEC for Sports, Recreation, Arts and Culture. The purpose for that, we all know that July was declared as the Men's Month. And it's not by coincidence that Men's Month is also happening, was to celebrate and commemorate the life of our revolutionary icon, Dr. Nelson Mandela. Because men have got to take responsibility to be the leaders of families. And for government to bring about stability and social cohesion, we can't succeed if we still continue to have the broken family structures. So therefore, it necessitates that family restoration becomes a priority to ensure that any social ill that you observe in the society is as a result of what is being produced in each and every, or is being manufactured in each and every family structure. So if that family structure is broken, definitely there will be criminals there. There will be hitmen who are born out of that structure which is broken. So in the society, those things will start finding expression. So for us to mobilize men, to take lead, to say not in our name, we can't allow gender-based violence as people in the society. But it also takes a village to raise a child. So those are the messages that were said yesterday, that we must all take a collective responsibility. Because if you just leave that family alone struggling to give principles of life that will make that child a responsible citizen, it's not going to be a problem of that family. It's going to be a problem of that community. And once it's escalating the community, it will be a problem of the entire area of Inanda, Umlazi, Hammersdale. Then you start seeing things happening there. So all what needs to be done, police can't be left alone. Men must champion these programs. Have Isbayas Amadoda in groups of 5, group of 6, you meet together, you share your own experiences, you share your own ideas as to how can you better build strong families, or how can you better become the champions of these families. Because remember, when you are the head, you are the champion in that family. A champion can't be lead the other way around. The champion must lead by example. And once you provide that leadership, then we'll be able to have a stable society. Because most of the things, including crime, if we can mobilize communities and say, let's work together to defeat the scourge, also including the issue of buying stolen goods.
Yeah.
Why all these things are escalating is because it's us who buy the very same stolen goods. So people who are perpetuating gender-based violence must be mobilized to pull out of that action, because jailing them is not the solution. Jailing people is not the solution, but the solution is to deal with the root causal factors which are informing the sketch. So once you are able to deal with that, bring about stable families, educated children who go to school, who do not pull out of school, you build the local economies, you deal with the socio-economic conditions, because remember that when the head of the family is not working, that on its own, it brings about instability in that family, because the man starts viewing himself as an inferior person, that I can't provide for my children, so therefore I'm a useless person. So he needs to be joining some of the social groupings so that he is told that no, you still remain a man, even if you are not working. But government on the other side must create a conducive environment for men to give their skills, to bring their own inputs and creativity and create their own jobs. Because the problem is when you expect government to create jobs, but the government must create a conducive environment for you as an individual or as a collective to do your block making, to do your bakery, to do everything, gardening projects. Then the government comes on board and complement what we are already doing.
And good news for the people of Ottongati. Remember, their water treatment works was devastated by the floods that we have experienced recently. And you went to the area on numerous occasions, interacting with the community. But the most important thing is that you went recently to introduce a contractor, meaning that the work has commenced.
Yes, we are happy that people of Ottongati, they've been patient with us. Because remember, the protest and that they've been conducting is part of their rights, because water is life. So without water, you can't survive. So now we're blocked by the objection. We're happy that the appeals committee dealt with that objection, and the appeal or the objection was dismissed. That is why we were able on Monday to go and introduce the company to start operating in that plant, to resuscitate our plant. And what is good about the work that's going to be done there, we reduced the period, the duration of the project. We said because people have been waiting for such a long period since April without water, so we want the contractor to stick on the 4 months period to deliver. But whilst they are working, we also said they must generate what we call skeleton operations, whereby they will be able to say, we can connect this pipe now whilst we are still fixing other things in that plant. Let's start supplying water to the community. So that is what we've been doing, and we've been working together with the communities, with the business partners, especially Tongat Hulet, who have done well, by the way, when we look at their response, because the road to our own plant had to be fixed. So they fixed that road within the timeline which they've set. Now we are in the plant resuscitating it. We are hopeful that people of Ottongati will see a lot of difference, as the company is already in the site, to ensure that we change their lives for the better. Because without water, there is no life.
Now, Mayor, thank you so much for your time. Hoping to see you soon.
Thank you very much. And we want to say to our community members, please be patient with us, because these disasters have left us with many devastating situations, the damage to infrastructure, to livelihoods. Other people have lost their jobs. So we need to work together to try and rebuild the city. But when we rebuild it, we must rebuild the city better and smarter to ensure that we bring about the inclusive economy.
That was the Mayor of EThekwini, Councillor Mxolisi Kaunda, calling upon all of us to ensure that we partner with the city to rebuild it. Thank you so much for watching.